Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's right there. Scion of the Kennedy clan, an environmental lawyer, a controversial figure who is the most prominent American to be censored on social media for his views on vaccines, COVID, the war in Ukraine, the border, among other things. He's running for president. But the Democratic Party's blocking him. The East Coast media is tagging him as a kook, a crackpot, a dangerous demagogue. He's still running for president. The question is he going to run as an independent? Next, Bobby Jr.
Live from downtown Detroit, it's No BS Newshour with my main man,
No bullshit!
It's just it breaking news. No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
American Coney Island. So good, even Al Roker from the Today Show eats here. Not like that other guy, Al Joker, who eats at Lafayette. So make sure you're a Roker and not a Joker. American Coney Island.
This message of uplift is brought to you by business and personal wealth advisor Luke Nowacki, who reminds you that what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but never enter the kingdom of God? But while you're waiting, Nowacki wants you to remember that overreaction is not a sound financial strategy. So call Luke Nowacki at 248-663-4748 for sound financial advice.
Hall Financial is putting more money in your pocket with our exclusive no-fee home loan. That's right, you pay no fees to Hall Financial. So in addition to our nearly 6,000 five-star reviews and our average 9-day turn time from application to close, you now pay no fees to Hall Financial. This is going to save you up to $2,500 in fees that you'd normally pay to the other guys. Start saving now. 866-CALL-HALL or chat with us at callhallfirst.com.
We're back. All right, bud, what you doing, bud? It's busy. Something happened.
It's a secret.
We'll get to that. Okay, listen. What are you doing in Michigan?
I'm doing a meet and greet here, and I'm meeting with some funders, and I think we have a fundraiser too. And my main reason I'm here is to sit down and straighten things out with you, Charles.
What did I do?
You did good stuff on the water crisis. I'm going to take a tour with you later.
You want to go to Flint?
Yeah.
You can see Detroit. We can go Flint. Okay, word. Okay, look, let me just do this. We got something for you. We took a flash poll. Okay, like you're running for president. You want to win Michigan. Detroit Red. He's a comedian and our crack reporter. So he went out. This is not a scientific sample, but he went out to his neighborhood and asked if they know Bobby Kennedy Jr.
All right.
Hi, Bobby. How are you?
All right. So do you know who Bobby Kennedy Jr. is?
Yeah.
All right. Would you vote for him for president? He's running as a Democrat.
Yes.
You know who Bobby Kennedy Jr. is?
Who was that? JF Kennedy brother? His cousin?
Are you close?
Bobby Kennedy Jr. he's the president's son.
Do you know who Bobby Kennedy Jr. is? Do you know who Bobby Kennedy Jr. is? You don't.
I can speculate who he is.
But you just don't.
Kennedy's son. You know what I mean?
Right. Close.
But I don't know which Kennedy, and I don't know how.
Who's that?
Bobby Kennedy Jr. is the son of Robert Kennedy, who was JFK brother. So that's his nephew.
And I don't give a flying fuck, because Bobby Kennedy ain't never did shit for me.
I would vote for Kennedy, though. I would. Versus Trump.
Would you?
Yes.
So
I've done my
Trump,
research.
Kennedy, you'll vote for Kennedy.
Absolutely.
Trump, Kennedy.
Trump.
Do you think he could beat Trump?
No. Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
That's the question. So on that snap poll, and you've been locked out. The Democrats been locking you out. That's 2 yes, 3 no, and 1's just mad at the world, and 1 not sure. So you're in Michigan, but you're an environmental lawyer. That's how you made your money. So you're anti-nuclear power, anti-coal.
Well, I'm not anti-nuke. What I've said is, if they can make nuke safe and effective, I'm all for it. It's like the same thing with vaccines and other stuff. If it's, we have good science and it's and it actually that shows that it's safe and effective. I mean, right now there's no nuclear power plant in the world that can get an insurance policy. Oh, it's not me saying that they're unsafe. It's the guys at AIG and Lloyd's of London who say you're so dangerous. We're not going to write you an insurance policy. So that the plants in our country, the industry had to go to Congress and get it in the middle of the night in a sleazy legislative maneuver to pass the Price-Anderson Act, which is why if you own a home, Charles, okay, well, go look at your home insurance policy because it has a provision in it that says it doesn't insure you against radiation from nuclear power plants. So you're self-insured. If they blow up that plant, if they let it go and it goes, they pay nothing to you. You pay everything. There's no other. The only other industry that's got that is vaccines. It's the only industry that has, full immunity from liability. Plus, there's no utility in the world that will build a nuclear power plant unless it is fully subsidized by the U.S. government. And, a solar plant costs $1 billion a gigawatt to build, all in capital costs. A nuclear power plant costs $14 billion. So we can make energy by burning prime rib if we wanted. But it wouldn't be the best use of our money.
But what do we do today?
And then incidentally, we have to store the waste for 30,000 years, which is 5 times the length of recorded human history. It's hard to understand how that can be financially justified.
My question is, okay, nuclear power is dangerous. Coal is pollutive. You don't like drilling. We build cars here. We need those components to build cars, much less run them. And I don't think we're ready here.
I'm not against. In theory, I'm not against carbon-based power. I just think we should take the cheapest power, and that we should build an infrastructure that gives us the cheapest electrons possible.
What is that? Which power?
Well, it would depend on where you are, but the cheapest form of energy right now is going to be solar, but it's variable power, so there may be cost to that. It does. You can't get it at night, right? But there's wind. Well, you can get wind power at night. The wind, in most parts of this country, blows at night, and the sun obviously shines in the day. So you can balance the grid, and it costs about the same to build a wind plant. Wind turbines are about $1.2 billion a big gigawatt. A coal plant costs $3.6 billion.
But that's power on demand. And with wind, and solar, like we don't have a way to store it.
Well, if we have a grid, an extensive grid, you don't need a way to store it.
You move it around.
You can move it around to different parts of the country, different days. So and then you turn every home into a power plant, and every American into an energy entrepreneur. Because if you can, use your home.
Our power company blocked that.
Yeah, that's
how that goes.
Well, that's the problem. We don't have free markets. They're channeling us to one source, which is carbon, and the rules were written by the incumbents to favor the dirtiest, filthiest, most poisonous, warmongering, most toxic fuels from hell rather than the cheap, clean, green, wholesome, and patriotic fuels from heaven. So,
let me go like this here. So I said, Bobby, I got these questions right here, these many. You're only giving me an hour. All right, so we're going to go. What I want to do is quickly, who's Bobby? The things that, Googling is a whole different thing.
You asked me to speak fast.
Concisely.
I got to go fire my staff because half the people on that tape didn't even know who I was. I'm supposed to have name recognition. That was my big.
We're going to get it for you, brother. Okay, so, yeah, I figured then we get into the very serious issues of being president in this day and age. So, first of all, you want a beer?
No, I haven't had a drink for 40 years.
Teetotaler?
I had plenty before that. If I drank a beer, something would happen that would get me on CNN.
Here's
Finally.
ginger ale. It's a Verner's. I'll have a beer.
I don't know.
What are you,
really?
are you a 12-stepper recovering guy?
Yeah. I don't even drink. What?
You ever had a Verner's?
Well, no, but it says no sugar, so there's probably aspartame in there, right?
Is there aspartame in there? She knows. Kirby knows. Look at that. Okay.
Yeah, I try to not drink any aspartame.
Okay, so you don't
Or
drink
gasoline.
but back when you were young, you played with hard drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, heroin, opiates.
Yes. That was my drug of choice. Heroin, cocaine.
Well, how long? Cause my sister.
I was doing it for 14 years from right after my dad died at 15. I picked it up and then I quit at 28.
And how do you? I don't hear you talk much about fentanyl, drug addicts on the streets of the major cities, cartels smuggling it in.
You say you don't want me to?
No, I haven't heard much of it.
I talk about it.
Totally Kennedy, totally Democratic. What? We have a big problem there. What's your solution here?
You mean the border?
No, I mean San Francisco and the east side of Detroit and Philly and everybody just.
I mean, one of my kind of my flagship project is I'm going to create rehabs for America. I'm going to create essentially community farms where people grow organic agriculture. Right now, the biggest industry in rural areas in our country is prisons. And, I'm going to go through existing, treatment, nonprofit treatment centers to build rehabs in rural areas all over the country so that we're killing 106,000 kids a year with fentanyl. It's, twice in 1 year what it took us 20 years to kill in Vietnam. So it's worth spending money. I'm going to legalize marijuana federally. It already is essentially legal, but that way we can tax it and people can transact, which they can't now. You have to hide your money under a mattress if you're, if you've got a cannabis dealership, even in Los Angeles, because there's no federal recognition. So I'm going to tax it and I'm going to use that money to create rehabs all over the country for free so that, American kids can get to a place not only if they're addicted to opiates, but also to get off of SSRIs, to get off of benzos, to restore mental health, a safe place where people can go and reestablish their relationship with the community.
How do we get rid of the super drugs on the street?
You're not going to get rid of them. I mean, the war on drugs is a failure.
China, Mexico.
Yeah, go to war with Mexico. That's not going to work. We've had a war on drugs since 1972, when Nixon declared it, and it's done nothing. The drug demand has increased. It's not what we need to do is look inside at ourselves and say, how do we give people a choice so that if most drug addicts, in my experience, most drug addicts during certain part of the day, certain part of the week, certain parts of the year, they desperately want to stop. They can't because they have an uncontrollable impulse that's cunning, baffling, and it's and they and then they don't have access to treatment. A lot of the treatment options today are very, predatory. Let me put it that way. And that doesn't mean all of them are. There's a lot of really good places out there, but they need to be able to get it free if they don't have an insurance policy. I've been to that open air drug market in San Francisco. It's something to see. It is insane.
It is. I've been to it. What are they doing?
And the fire engines keep coming in and out, picking up bodies or unconscious people and hauling them away. It was I went with my wife, and It was, and it's surrounding the federal courthouse. There.
Right.
It's like, I've never seen anything like that, anywhere in the world.
Here's one.
So, no, this is no sugar in that.
Oh, that's your one you're drinking there.
Yeah.
Iced tea?
Yeah. So,
all right.
but you're not going to, first
So-
of all,
so
you
treatment.
can't stop fentanyl at the border. Fentanyl is so potent. It's the fentanyl, the
But you
active
can stop
ingredient-
it at the ports.
active
you
ingredient.
know where it comes in Mexico. It comes
let
in
me
the
just
Baja
tell you
port.
something. The active ingredient of fentanyl is 1/200th the size of the morphine molecule. So you could kill the entire population of Los Angeles with a briefcase full of fentanyl. It's impossible to stop it from coming in this country or manufacturing in this country. You can't do it. We have to deal with,
backside.
demand
The backside,
rather
yeah.
than supply.
Okay, let me do this. It's important. We were talking about in terms of the presidency now. Vitality, physical vitality, is of utmost importance. Biden, I don't. Even money if he makes it to election day. Trump, he looks like a walking French fry, high cholesterol. You
Jumping off cliffs.
are very robust in this push-up video. Dude, how old are you?
Let's go.
69.
Look at that. Look, this guy's ripped. He looks like Jack LaLanne. Okay, but with all due respect, it's important. Your voice did you suffer from Parkinson's or
No, I have a disease called spasmodic dystonia. And I got it when I was like 46 years old. I actually looked at some tapes of mine and that were from like 96, 97. My voice was still very strong. I had like an unusually strong voice. In fact, I was speaking for a living, a large part of my living, because I'm in court, and then I give, do lecture tours, and so I rely on my voice for my living, and then that year it was just, I got this disease. It started trembling, and people would see me on TV and they'd say, "You have spasmodic dystonia. You need to go see Dr. Andrew Blitzer." They were all saying the same thing. He was the expert on spasmodic dystonia, so I went to see him and he said, "Yeah, that's what you got." And but you know what? My voice right now is improving. So I'm kind of optimistic about it because I went and got surgery on it in Japan. I went with Cheryl and we spent 10 days in Kyoto, but the surgery only took about an hour. They put a titanium bridge in my vocal cords. My vocal cords were tight together, so I couldn't force air between them, and they put a bridge between them, so now the air goes through. But I've also been doing these. I found I found a couple of doctors who have treated it, and I'm with them now, and my voice is getting better every day.
The more you use it, the looser they get?
Well, it does get better. Like if I'm giving a speech, the beginning of the first 5 minutes are the roughest part, and then by the end, everybody's kind of forgotten about it. And, part of that is people get used to it, but also my voice gets much stronger the more that I talk. So you'll probably notice it in this show that at the end of the show, my voice will be stronger.
But do you think that's going to undermine your effort at all? I mean, oratorical skills.
Well, I don't think it helps
me. No, I'm saying because people, I read the other day, people said he has a great message, but being able to hear it, to understand.
I think some people are put off. I would think a lot of people would be, but a surprisingly a high number of people are not put off by it. And that we've had people before. Would I rather have this handicap or what Franklin Roosevelt had?
Right.
I'd rather have this.
Well, and you know what the point is? We ask, and that's what the deal is.
Well, so people understand too,
Right.
because people don't know, and we didn't ask.
Well, you don't
them
have to make excuses. Look, I'm not happy with my voice at all. I wish, I can't listen to myself on TV, so I don't understand how other people.
It's not
When
bad.
you drive up to Flint tomorrow, you're not going to put this on?
No, I will never see this show. So whatever happens here,
You and anybody else, bro. I'm telling you.
That's an endorsement.
Okay, listen. I want to. It's a very serious time we're living in, but I want to get to you. so people can make up their mind if they want to listen to the rest of this. Look, I told my friend that I work a lot on Flint with. Very serious guy, very progressive, liberal. He left the Democrats. He never moved, and the Democrats moved on him. You see what I'm saying? And
I had the same experience.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And he's like that with the Republicans. Like we never let
when the Democrats become the war party. And
well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. We got to do this.
All right.
And I said, guess what I got coming on? I got Robert Kennedy Jr. And he goes, he sneered. And I go, what's the deal, dude? I mean, that's surprising. And he goes, he's a conspiracy theorist. I go, oh. And so I do Robert Kennedy Jr., conspiracy theorist, and there's 80 Google pages in a row. And they all say the same thing. So, first of all, did you know Drake, right? The performer Drake. He dropped a new track today. Swear to God. Dropped a new track today. You're in it.
Diss me so long ago, we making your memories fly. Conspiracy theories start floating around like the Kennedy guy. I'll probably hold a grudge against you guys till I'm 75.
Okay, so I want to take care of this in one swoop. She could do the question, but you're going to remember this lady. You were on C-SPAN, and she's very excited. She's from the Democratic family, and this is what she had to say.
You are definitely not in my book or any of my Democratic family or friends' book a Democrat. Your conspiracy theories, they literally scare us. We just came out of 4 years of, full of Trump's lies and his conspiracy theories. In this country, you claim that you want to heal us as a nation and our divide. And this is not, the Wi-Fi causes cancer and 5G is mass surveillance and chemicals in our water cause transgender and antidepressants cause school shootings. I'm so confused, and so I'm looking for clarity from you today, Mr. Kennedy.
Oh. You want to just handle that?
Well, I'm happy to handle each one of those at a time.
Go.
Can you remember what they were?
5G gives you cancer.
Okay, well, I'm in litigation right now representing hundreds and hundreds of people who've gotten glioblastoma from on their, and it's a classic. They're called cell phone tumors. They occur behind the ear that you favor, and there's study after study after study that shows that that cell phone radiation alters the DNA and the mitochondria in your gene in ways that lead to cancer. So
it's rooted in fact.
It's not. Yeah, we wouldn't be there wouldn't be a lot of lawyers who are betting, lawyers don't bring those kind of cases. We pay for those cases ourselves, and they may cost us $10 or $11 million. And we don't bring those cases unless we think we're going to win. So, it doesn't mean we're going to win, but we look at the evidence. We know how to, the same thing was with Monsanto. This lady probably would have called me a conspiracy theory if I said that, that Roundup causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But we won the case. We won 3 cases in a row, and then they settled for $13 billion. So, people, every time I sue a polluter, they say, well, it's a conspiracy theory.
Do you use a cell phone?
Yeah, but I never put it in my head. I don't put it in my head.
He did. He walked in like this.
I always keep it on speaker. You got to keep it at least 6 or 8 inches away from your head.
Okay, look, 5G, they're using it to surveil us. Want me to handle that one?
5G? I don't say 5G is put up for surveillance. Anybody who thinks that 5G is not a surveillance system, you lie in bed with your wife and complain about the mattress and see if you don't get 5 mattress ads in the morning.
That is true.
Somebody's listening to you.
You're a conspiracy
theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think, and I think that people call, a different way of thinking conspiracy theories because it goes against the grain of the status quo.
But does anybody seriously think your cell phone is not listening to you?
And
or
following
your Siri,
you, tracking
or,
you?
When you get a cough in your home and you get cough.
Well, for God's sake, during COVID, they knew all the steps we were taking.
Yeah.
So tracking your heart.
And they're yeah.
Okay. So again,
next one.
Drinking the water causes frogs to turn transgender.
All you have to do is look up Google sex change in frog. Google sex change in frogs, peer-reviewed study, and you will see peer-reviewed studies there that show if you, one study, the guy's name is Dr. Tyler, I forget his name, but you can look it up. Is this guy, what's your name again?
Mark.
Mark, is he the
Mike.
fact checker here or no? You don't.
I can be.
He does everything.
All right, well, so fact check. I think the guy's name is Tyler. He's
I
a scientist.
already did it. I looked it up.
From
Yeah.
Omaha or from Ohio. But anyway, what he did is he put 26 or 27 frogs in a aquarium. They dosed them with atrazine, which is in 63% of our water
endocrine
supply.
blocker, yeah.
It's and it's an endocrine disruptor. They put it, but it's a pesticide that is widely used. It's in 63% of our water supply. EPA has what is a safe level. So they put it in the water with the frogs less than EPA's safe level. So they were getting dosed what we're getting dosed at. And 90% of the frogs became sterile. They were all males. 10% of them became female and produced fertile eggs.
So
now that doesn't mean that will do that to humans.
Did you wait? Let me ask.
Did I ever say it would do it?
That's
No.
what I'm asking.
Of course not.
Did you make the leap?
No,
or ask the
no, I
question?
don't know. Of course not.
Okay.
Nobody can show me that. I just said
I looked for it. I couldn't find it.
no. Yeah,
but it was put in your mouth.
What they're applying this conspiracy theory label to me, to silence me, so that so that everybody will think, oh, he's a crackpot, he's a nut. If you look at MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, and that's all you look at, then you'll get that same rap that she gave, and I can see why she's angry. If I just read that and believed it, I wouldn't like me either.
I spent a lot of years
but,
at the New York Times. You know what they do when you Google it? Like they use liar.
Yeah.
They didn't say possibly a liar. Straight up, you're a liar.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what they do. They're not, it's not journalism, it's propaganda.
Let me do this one because you were mad at it and you went up to Congress and, my mic, sorry. You went up to Congress because, you were caught in a casual conversation in New York at a table talking about COVID and how it attacks people of European and African descent more than the Ashkenazi Jew or Chinese, right? So let's play it just so you can answer this, right?
Yeah.
For the crowd here in Michigan because we don't want
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not. But there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential and impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA, they're collecting Chinese DNA, so that we can target people by race.
So you said two things that are true. The data of who this affects, right? And who it doesn't. And then the other one, I got to finish the question, Bobby. I got to finish the question. Okay. The other part was it's scary and factual that the United States, China, probably a dozen other countries are engaged in engineering bioweapons to strike you genetically, right?
Yeah.
But when you say them together in a sentence, because they're going to weaponize that.
Well, yeah, of course.
So were you trying to say there's a cabal of Jews and Chinese trying to kill the rest of us?
Of course not.
But that's what Congress was screaming. Sorry,
yeah, I know. Well, that's what of course they, and I shouldn't have said it because for two reasons. One, it was a private conversation that was supposed to be off the record, and
there is no
I didn't even know it was being taped. But because I wouldn't say that publicly because there are people out there who would like to make blood libels against Jews. And so, I don't want to give them any fuel for their paranoia, etc. But all I was doing was describing a paper that was published by NIH. And that paper showed that the docking site on the coronavirus at the end of the spike protein, there's a docking site that docks with the ACE2 receptor in the human lung, and that docking site was a perfect fit for blacks, people of African descent. It was a near perfect fit for Caucasians, and then it was a very bad fit for people from Finland were the most immune, according to this, and then Ashkenazi Jews and ethnic Chinese. So, and this was a discussion we were having about bioweapons and ethnic bioweapons. I just made the point that, there are diseases affect people of different ethnicities differently. So there are different vulnerabilities that are attached to your ethnicity. And that therefore it is, theoretically possible to design a bioweapon that would hurt one race or another. And in fact, and we are trying to, for sure. Well, and there are many nations that are trying to. This is well documented in the literature.
And you know what? Okay.
Because it's the perfect bioweapon. Every other bioweapon, you have to develop a vaccine because there's going to be blowback on your side. If you give those guys cholera, yellow fever, dengue fever, your people are going to get sick too. There's no way to give it to their army without it coming back on our army. And so you have to have a vaccine ready. And you have to vaccinate all of your army first before you deploy the bioweapon. The only way that you don't have to do that is if you can develop an ethnic bioweapon. Then you can kill them and none of your guys are going to get it. So it has always been the holy grail of bioweapons enthusiasts.
And you're writing a book about this.
Yeah, I have a book about to come out.
It's about to come out just on this, so that you're not a dope just going off at a table.
Did you get the COVID vaccine?
No.
Okay, I just want to make
sure. Have you gotten polio vaccine?
Yeah, I got all my vaccines when I was a kid, and I got a
time out, brother. Hold on. You're not a vaccine nut then.
Well, I may be, I guess that doesn't make me one. I guess I could have become one.
Did you vax your kids?
Yep. I wish I hadn't, but I did.
Why? Polio vaccine doesn't work?
Well, no, it's not the polio vaccine, but the ones that they put in after that. When I was a kid, we just had polio, smallpox, and typhoid. We have 3 vaccines, and the kids today get 72.
Multiple shots of about 15,
they get
16.
There's 17 different diseases, and it's multiple doses. You'll get hepatitis B, I think, 5 times.
Have they done studies about what all these different...
No, there's no studies. There's no safety. There's not a single pre-licensing safety study for any of them. None that are placebo-controlled. None.
Well,
and by the way, I was...
Not the placebos that you prefer, but some kind of...
A placebo means inert. The
saline,
CDC developed...
saline,
CDC,
water, sugar.
CDC has a published definition of placebo.
Let's make it simple for the audience. So you're saying they never used a placebo, a fake pill that had inert substance?
It would be a vaccine.
And you asked Fauci many times, as he could never produce the study.
No. And so what you want is for any new drug or medical device, you want to test it on let's say if it's a vaccine, an unvaccinated population, and then the same number, let's say 30,000 people, the same number of vaccinated. And then you want to follow their health outcomes for, Tony Fauci says 8 years. That's what should be done. Nothing. I mean, the hepatitis B vaccine was safety tested for a total of 4 days, and there was no placebo. So they were just saying, does it kill you? And if it kills you, can we argue it was something else that killed you? That's basically how they did the study. But it's 4 days. A lot of the injuries from vaccines, like every medication, have long incubation periods, long diagnostic horizons. You're not going to see the impact in 4 days.
Okay, so
unless they just drop dead.
You're dropping knowledge here, and some of it I'm not aware of. I'll look it up later, but I have no reason to doubt you. I looked up the other things you talked about, and you're correct. Sorry, oops, because I'm a conspiracy theorist.
But are you on YouTube, or were you on YouTube prior to this show?
What do you mean?
Well, if you put this on YouTube, you're gone.
Oh, you fuck them.
Okay.
We go on Twitter.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean? And iTunes, this is a top 200 news and politics podcast here in our slum in America.
Really?
We tell the truth. and we do our own
Why
work.
don't you paint the place with all your money?
Because no one wants to.
Because there's no more plaster on the wall to paint.
There's chemicals in those paints.
That's right.
But the biggest conspiracy, the biggest perpetration of hoax in the last 10 years was conducted by mainstream media. On the left, it was the Russia collusion story. And on the right, it was the election was stolen.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there was a lot
I knew you were going to do that, but
propaganda there, too.
sure, but we know it's false. There was no Putin Trump campaign collusion and they're sending secret messages. It was made up. It came from Hillary Clinton. It was pushed by the spy agencies. The dumbass press looking to get a prize that they never gave back went merrily along, and it destroyed the country. That's a conspiracy theory. They perpetrated it, and yet they say that about you. You're the most censored man probably that people know of in the United States.
Yeah, I would probably say, yeah, that's true. I was the first one that Biden censored. So he started censoring me 37 hours after taking the oath of office. We know this because we sued him. And, the case Kennedy versus Biden, and it's a companion case of Missouri versus Biden, which was fought by the Attorney General of Missouri and the Attorney General of Louisiana. And we got a lot of discovery in those. Plus, Elon Musk released the Twitter files. So after he took over Twitter, they'd been in secret, collusion to censor people and with the White House.
These are facts.
And he released it all publicly. So, he released it through there's like 1 million documents. So he divided them up among, a bunch of journalists, the kind of the last remaining investigative journalists in this country. People like Matt Taibbi and Paul Thacker and people who are now, there's none in the mainstream media. They're all on Substack now. Any real investigative journalist, the people on the mainstream media are pretty much on both sides, I would say, propagandists for certain ideologies or doctrines or points of view or political parties. But there are a number of really good investigative journalists on Substack. And
I'm on the Detroit News.
What?
I'm on the Detroit News,
Oh, okay. Well, I take it back.
The next interview, throw that in there. Say, LeDuff up there in Detroit. It'll be helpful.
Oh, all right.
Okay. Anyhow, speaking of,
by the way, who owns the Detroit News? Is that a family or is that a Hearst or
Gannett? Yeah, we have a joint operating agreement. 150 years old this year, so I mean, it's scrappy. It's holding on. It's do our work there. I mean, could we do better? Yeah, a little more money we could, but it's still scrappy. It's trying to hold people to account.
Yeah, I went to a newspaper to do an editorial board meeting in Vermont, in New Hampshire, about 3 weeks ago, and it was just like a back in time. It was the last remaining privately owned local newspaper in New Hampshire, and it had a newsroom that looked. Do you remember that movie, The Front Page?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it looked just like that. It was really great. It was fantastic, and all the reporters and all the editorial staff, we all sat around in a circle and they grilled me for about 2.5 hours. And it was, but it was real journalism.
Okay,
pretty
some
amazing.
real journalism.
What?
Speaking
like
of
right
parties,
here, like what we're doing.
Here's some real journalism. What are you doing in Philly Monday? You're announcing you're running as an independent?
Are you trying to trick me? It's a surprise what I'm announcing.
Your own people leaked it. Like everybody knows.
You think I'm going to walk into that trap?
There's no line to read between because the page is blank. I mean, come on. This is no bullshit news. Just tell me.
Forget about it.
Just whisper.
Come to Philly.
Go Philly. Fucking Philly. Now, are you running as an independent?
How far is the drive from here to Philadelphia? Let me guess. I'm guessing about
10 hours.
7 hours.
10,
I think it's 10.
Are you driving?
No, I'm going to fly.
Electric vehicle, Grand Home, I can hook you up. That's not good. So, listen, you're going to be the first Kennedy running for office who is not supported by his family. The Democrats...
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's certain members of my family that, don't like me running. And, there's a lot of members of my family, 5 members who work for the Biden administration. So, I don't begrudge them that.
Okay.
But I do have a lot of members of my family who are going to be there. And
To do what? We're in
support me.
Philadelphia?
Oh, yeah.
To do, what are you doing there?
They're going to applaud whatever announcement I make.
Jesus. Come on. So, I mean, you do have a pretty wide, maybe a couple 100,000 volunteers nationwide?
Yeah, we have more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And it is expensive to run as an independent, like especially California, I would think, right? I mean, to actually put the infrastructure in
Well, to get on the ballot
as an independent.
will cost about $15 million
As an independent.
to get on all 50 states.
Okay.
Because each state has different rules, and and each state has a different time slot. In some states it's really easy. You only need a couple hundred signatures. In some states you need thousands, and you need them from every county. Or
How many do you need in Texas, for instance?
I don't know. I don't have it memorized.
Memorized.
Yeah.
You sure know an awful lot about running for an independent. Newsflash. Bobby Kennedy is running as an independent, I think.
If I was running, I would know the answer to that.
The Democrats screwed you. They no debate. It's like a Soviet plenary. This party these days, right? They're not going to give you any debates. They want the primaries to be flip flop. They want South Carolina to go first because it favors Biden. They will penalize Iowa and New Hampshire if they don't change their state law. And if you politic there,
if I step foot into New Hampshire and Iowa, which I've already done, any candidate who steps foot in those states will not be able to get any. Will not be able to. Their votes will not be counted.
The Democrats are saying Democrats cannot visit.
Yes.
Their party
New
members?
Hampshire or Vermont.
No way. Really? Is this a conspiracy theory? No, that's psycho.
It's a conspiracy.
And so that's why you're running independent.
Yeah, I mean,
we just clip it like that.
There's a lot of other. There's a lot of other things that they've done to. There's somebody's made a list of 60 rules that they've made to make it impossible.
Super delegates
to run. Yeah, and then they have a new class of super delegates called PLEOs, which stands for, is an acronym.
Political leaders and others. Yeah, election others or what? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Party apparatchiks. They did this shit to Bernie Sanders.
They did it to Tulsi. They did it to Bernie. They do it to any progressive candidate, because they're corporate donors. Basically, the Democratic Party is the same group of corporate donors as the Republican Party.
I know they are. They're subsidiaries of the same business.
Yeah, and I think they'd rather have Trump. I imagine. I don't know, but I think some of them would probably rather have Trump as president than me as a Democratic candidate because it will mess with their donors.
Interesting. Okay, so look, let's just assume we'll just way out there. Philly is far away, and I'm going to sleep on this weekend. Think about it. Let's just say you do run as an independent. You could win. You could win. I mean, I'm out there talking. You saw that 40% of Detroit, our unofficial poll, is going.
Yeah, I'm not actually betting the ranch on that particular poll, but there are
small
polls.
sample size.
We're going where your pollsters won't, bro.
But there are 2 polls out there that are public now. One of them by YouGov, and that shows me at, I think, 17%.
At a three-way.
In a three-way.
Trump, Biden, Kennedy, 17. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. That's parole.
I don't know what Cornel West will do to that.
Who?
And then,
well, wait a minute. I got knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cornel West.
Cornel West who?
Exactly. What are we talking about here? We're talking about Bobby Kennedy.
I saw that coming. And then, so anyway, in a 3-way race, they have me at 17, and there's one of the PACs that support me that I'm not allowed to have contact with, the American Values PAC, also did a poll by Zogby, and they show me in a 3-way race at 19, which coincidentally is exactly where Ross Perot ended.
Exactly.
So,
and remember, before Ross Perot freaked out, he was winning.
He got up to 39.
Yes,
because then he freaked out because his daughter was being threatened.
Yeah,
and he dropped out of the race. Then when he came back, he never regained.
Exactly.
But anyway, but so I don't know. We have to look at that, make a decision as to what
you're doing it. Just playing with me. Of course you're doing it. And yeah, I think you've got a real shot because 34% can win it. And you're more than halfway there. And we're going to get to it right after this commercial break.
You're convincing me. I don't know. You're very convincing.
I'm just a reporter, sir. Just call him as I see him. A word from our sponsor. We'll be right back to ask Robert F. Kennedy Jr. the questions of the day. You want to be president? These are the things you're going to have to address. Let's see if we have his answer. Well, when it rains, the power goes out. And when the power goes out, the internet goes out. When the internet goes out, I call my friend Matt and Bernie at XG Service Group. Look at Bernie here on his hands and knees, giving it everything he's got. Look at that man crack. So busy, he forgot to wear a belt. There's Matt right there getting the board together. That's 734-245-4100 if you need Matt and Bernie to come take care of your voice over internet, your security cameras, off-campus access control, Wi-Fi, and cameras for homes and business. They'll design it for you. You got restaurants, they do drive-through systems, railroad cameras for public safety, total wireless camera systems for your home and business. Yeah, that's right. Call XG Services at 734-245-4100. No BS Newshour brought to you by Legacy Partners Insurance. Do what we've all done here. Call them, 586-209-4106. They will shop for a better insurance rate for you. You will pay less and get more coverage for your home, your car, your motorcycle, your camper, your vacation cottage, all of it. They'll even help you with life insurance and Medicare. Call Legacy Insurance, 586-209-4106. Have them wrap their arms around you. Be covered. Be safe. ADR Consultants, experienced overseeing more than $250 million in public and construction projects since the turn of the century. They're competent. If you want to reduce your costs and increase your bottom line, you want to cut the red tape, you're going to need somebody that knows how to navigate it. That would be ADR Consultants in procurement and government compliance and information technology. ADR, smart, get the job done right, on time, on budget. 248-318-9424. Call Barry Ellentuck for a free consultation. Feeling stressed out? Feeling a little bit anxious? Got trouble sleeping? You biting your nails? Try Next Evo Naturals, CBD based. Stay well. The fall, the weather's changing, right? Maybe your mood is. Get yourself calm. CBD from Next Evo Naturals. Go to nextevo.com/nobs and get 25% off and a free bottle of premium pure CBD. You can get their stress or sleep complexes. That's nextevo.com/nobs. Independent candidate, maybe. We'll find out on Monday. Robert F. Kennedy. Issue number one for the president of the United States is the dollar. The dollar is shit. We have a debt spiral going on. We have government spending beyond its means, having to borrow. That stimulates the economy. Inflation starts going up. The Fed has to do the opposite, raise interest rates. That means the government spending at a deficit level never seen before, has to borrow at higher rates, stimulates the economy. And around it goes. You have two choices, sir, as president. We can either quantitative ease again, buy our own debt. Fed buys the Treasury's debt, and that creates inflation. Or we cut entitlements, which we've taken $4 trillion and we're spending $6 trillion. Entitlements are $3 trillion. The military's $1 trillion. After old people and poor people in the military, there's nothing left. Which one will you do? Will you cut entitlements or will you quantitative ease?
I'm going to cut the military.
At a time like this.
Like what?
Well, we'll go into that debate.
Yeah, okay. I will. I'm going to, wind down the empire, cut the military to, let's say, about $500 billion, which is
size it. You'll half it.
Half it. I mean, the military now includes, if you look at military and national security, it's up to like 1.3 trillion. The straight on military is about 990. And I wind that down to 5 billion, which allows us to do the things that we need to do, which is to arm ourselves to the teeth at home, protect the sea lanes, protect neutral areas like the Arctic, and then to respond to crises.
Okay, let me do the math.
But it doesn't have 800.
Let's do the math, though. So you'd cut $500 billion from the military. We'd still have to borrow 1.5 trillion, which would be the now fourth highest deficit ever. That's not going to get us there. What else?
Yeah, well, I'm going to cut the cost for chronic disease. Our medical bills are now 4.3 trillion. And 80% of that, actually more, about 3.7 trillion go to chronic disease. And because chronic disease, we have the highest level of chronic disease in the world of anybody, and we have the highest level in history. We've gone, when my uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Now, then by 86, 11.8. By 2006, 54%. And today, nobody knows because NIH stopped publishing numbers.
I'm not hearing the numbers I want, sir.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Wall Street.
Well,
guys.
you cut chronic disease, and that will cut enormously costs from healthcare.
How much?
Over time, it's going to cost. Over time, I'd say half.
But when you say cut chronic disease, can you give us a couple things that you have to do in order to cut chronic disease?
Well, the chronic disease epidemic is being caused by environmental toxins. Mm-hmm. There's only a certain number of culprits because we know the epidemic began in 1989. We didn't have, autism went from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in my generation, it still is 1 in 10,000. In my kids' generation, it's 1 in 34. And then food allergies suddenly appeared, peanut allergies, all these autoimmune diseases like, and eczema and, asthma exploded, anaphylaxis. All these autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile diabetes, Crohn's disease, stuff that we never heard of, that in my generation, and now it's ubiquitous in this generation. And then all the neurological diseases.
So you're going to get rid of the toxins, is what?
Yeah, and then obesity, and the toxin. Well, what you
that
have
would be
to
the
do
food. It would have to be as well.
Is very quickly determine which diseases are being caused by which exposures. Okay. There's only about 13 things that could be causing them, and it's probably
that's not going to solve our fiscal problem. It's
not going to solve it overnight.
No,
it'll solve it over time.
I don't know if we have time. You seen the bond markets? You seen the stock market? You seen the gold market? You seen what oil's doing? Well, we're right here. Let me just read you what Goldman says here. They're my friends. Goldman, a sharp rise in long-term interest rates, which I just said, combined with the widening deficits, which I just said, and heightened fiscal discord in Congress, and we would have an independent president not belonging to any party. That should add some discord. Yeah. That renews questions about the sustainability of government interest costs. Let's move on.
You want to hear where else I'm going to find money?
Tick, tick, tick. Let's go.
Well, for 25 years, the GAO has been doing an annual report on the most wasteful programs in government. Those reports go on a shelf and they get dust and nobody reads them. So I'm going to put a base closer commission to go through all those reports and find the least politicized and most advantageous place to cut. I'm going to put them all in one bill and have an up and down vote on them in Congress.
Okay. We got something there. Okay, I like it. Okay. Let's go to the war machine. I know we can save some money. Ukraine. So far, we've sent enough money to Ukraine to fund the city of Detroit for 52 years, just for perspective. Now, a yes or no, because I don't know what to believe is said about you in reports. Did you say that Russia/Putin is acting in good faith at the moment?
No.
Okay. Right there.
What I said was that Russia tried to settle the war, and Zelensky did. I mean, Russia tried to settle it twice, and Zelensky tried to twice. Well, Russia initially, after we funded the revolution that in 2014 that overthrew the elected government of Ukraine and replaced it with a puppet government of ours. The new government we put in began making war on the people of Donbass and Lugansk, who are primarily ethnic Russian. Putin wanted to solve that issue. So he negotiated a deal with Britain, France, and Germany called the Minsk
Accords.
Right. And Zelensky in 2019 ran on the Minsk Accords, saying
real quickly, what the Minsk Accords would say was there'll be some kind of special status within the Ukrainian territory for the Donbas region, the Russian.
Yeah, they would be able, because the new government that we put in banned the Russian language and then, made them essentially the redheaded stepchildren of a really, oppressed minority. And, Russia had it's 90% of them are ethnic Russians, so Russia had an interest in protecting them, the same as we would of expatriates in Mexico, if Mexican government started killing 14,000 of them. And so Russia said, and they voted to join Russia. The people of Donbass and Lugansk, the 4 provinces voted to join Russia,
but that's disputed whether that was a true and fair election.
Well, it's 90-10. I don't think I think they.
Bobby, I'm just helping you. We have to say that because then there's another conspiracy theory.
Right.
I threw that in.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody is arguing that the group that wanted to stay with Ukraine would have won that. It's just impossible that would have happened. So they voted to join Russia. But Putin said no. Putin didn't want them. He said, let's make it so that they are a semi-autonomous region within Ukraine and that they can speak their own language and they'll be able to protect themselves from violence. And then we'll keep NATO out of Ukraine, which is the main thing that he wanted. And those were the essentials of the Minsk Accords.
Did we bait this war? Did the United States?
Yeah, we baited this war for sure.
If I might.
So let me just finish.
Okay. Why am I talking? You're here to.
Well, let me just finish. So then,
the wrap up.
Zelensky runs in 2019, and he wins with 70% of the vote. He's a comedian who dresses, in like a transvestite, and he's not like a serious person, but he wins with 70% of the vote. Why? Because he ran on a peace platform. He promised that he would sign the Minsk Accords, and everybody wanted peace. But as soon as he got in there, he pivoted. Nobody knows why, but people suspect that Victoria Nuland from our State Department pressured him not to settle with the Russians, and which that was the objective of the neocons and that cadre, and people within his own government, the let's call them politely ultranationalists within his own government, threatened to kill him. This is what is widely believed, and I think is credible. But at any rate, he pivots. The Russians then invade, but it's not a serious invasion. It's only 40,000 people. This is a country of 44 million people. You're not going to conquer them with 40,000. So clearly, he just wanted them back at the negotiating table. They come back in March before hardly anybody's been killed. Zelensky comes back. The U.S. won't help him settle. He goes to Israel and Turkey because the U.S. doesn't want a settlement. He goes to U.S. and Turkey, or Turkey and Israel, and they patch together a settlement that is based upon the Minsk Accords and looks a lot like it. And he signs it, and the Russians sign it. And the Russians, in good faith, begin removing their troops, in good faith at that time. And then President Biden sends Boris Johnson over there to force Zelensky to tear up the agreement. And he did, and the Russians went back in.
I've never heard this. This is like antithetical to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's antithetical to the official narrative.
Because let's let everybody remember your uncle, when the Russians wanted to put nuclear warheads in a former country friendly to us, Cuba, and it almost lights off World War III. We're blockading. There's no way we're doing it. I don't understand why everybody's blind to the fact that Russia has what? The Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire. It was an original signatory to the Soviet Union. I mean, if you were...
And you know, the Ukraine border is only 400 miles from Moscow.
Here's
so
NATO
how do
Secretary,
you... Right, and plus, Russia's been invaded 3 times through Ukraine. The last time, you know, Hitler killed 1 out of every 7 Russians. So they do have a real security, you know... Concern. And
I'm no apologist for
We're
it.
trying to make it NATO, and we're bringing in NATO, which they've said that's a red line. Everybody said that's a red line.
Can I read to you what NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg said last month? He said to the European Parliament, the background was that President Putin declared in the autumn of 2021 and actually sent a draft treaty that they wanted NATO to sign to promise no more NATO enlargement. That's what he sent us. And it was a precondition not to invade Ukraine. Of course, we didn't sign that. So he went to war to prevent NATO, more NATO, close to his borders. He has got the exact opposite.
He what?
He got the exact opposte. He
Oh,
went to
yeah.
war to
So
prevent NATO.
they taught him a lesson.
And here we come.
Yeah, and 400. Yeah, and by the way, when Gorbachev in '92,
poor sack,
pulled 400,000 Soviet troops out of East Germany, and he made a deal. He said, "Look, I'm going to do something that people don't do. I'm going to pull all our troops out, let you reunify Germany under NATO, which is a hostile force. I want one promise: you will not move NATO to the east." And James Baker, who's then Secretary of State,
he's a good Secretary of State,
famously told him, "We will not move NATO 1 inch to the east." And since then, we've moved it 1,000 miles.
We got missiles in
14
Poland
countries.
and
we
Romania.
got Aegis missile systems in Romania and Poland that are nuclear capable.
Yeah,
They're 12 minutes from Moscow. They could decapitate the entire Soviet leadership in 12 minutes. You know, it destabilized and plus, since then, we walked away unilaterally from 2 nuclear treaties that we had with Russia. So we had nuclear treaties, intermediate range nuclear treaties that said you can't put nuclear weapons in Europe.
So you as president would say, we're at a stalemate now. That's the best time to negotiate. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, New York's waving at me. I got to move along. Then my solution is this. I would negotiate with Putin. Have your military, the men of military age, put down their weapons, cross the border, and claim amnesty. Ask for asylum. Wait a minute, I'm talking about our border. Talk to me about our border. Did you hear today what Biden's administration saying? We got to finish building the wall. What is your take on what's going on with the border? As president,
my take, it was insane what was happening at the border. I went down there and I watched. I mean, I went into the border at Yuma for between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and I watched 300 people walk across, and they're all given plane tickets to any destination they want in the United States at our expense if they don't have the money. And most of them have been robbed by the cartels because the cartels were bringing them in buses. 55 in a bus up to the border. The cartels charge them 10 to 15 grand a piece. They advertise all over the world. So we weren't watching people. There were only 2 families that came in that night from Latin America. They were all from Asia, from Africa. There was 110 men from Africa. And then, the second 2, there were 4 buses altogether. The second 2 buses were all from Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Tibet, Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, China. And they all said to me, the only 2 who had asylum claims, which would be, they give them a legal right to stay in this country, were the Peruvian, the Colombian family, who said, we're running from the drug cartels who are trying to kill us. But the other people when I interviewed every one of them, and they all said, we're here to make money and to work. But that doesn't legally allow them to stay. But nevertheless, the Border Patrol fingerprints them. If they're not a criminal, if they don't have a criminal record that the Border Patrol finds, they drive them to the Yuma airport and put them on a plane to any destination they ask in the United States. And it's crazy, and it's not doing them a favor. It's a humanitarian crisis.
What would you do?
They're each given, I'll tell you.
New York's waving at me again. What? I don't need you doing it. You don't work for them.
I'm.
We got to wrap, but we got to wrap. It's your people.
Our people.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were late. What do I got to suffer for this?
So they're given a asylum date 7 years in the future, and then they come here. They go to New York. There's 110,000 of them. They're, first of all, I talked to them when they came up. They've been robbed, raped, beaten, exploited, extorted by the cartels. You know, the Peruvian family had all their life savings taken. I spent a day at a rape center that treats the children who have been raped coming across, women who have been raped. There's a rape tree that we could see where the cartels extract the final, what they call the final payment from women and children. It's horrible. What we've done there is a humanitarian crisis. It's not nice. They come here. They have no legal status. They can't work legally. They're exploited by unscrupulous employers who pay them $5, $10, $15 an hour. And, you know, the construction firms are hiring them in New York, and then those firms are competing against union shops.
So what would you do?
First of all, it's easy to stop. And, you know, I spent a day with the Border Patrol, with ICE, local law enforcement, the Sheriff's Association. I talked to migrants on both sides. I talked to everybody. And everybody there says you can shut this down overnight.
How?
You got to finish those 5 sections of the wall where they're all coming through. It's insane. They're just gaps of, you know, from 100 yards to a quarter mile. There's 5 of them. They need to be filled. But you don't need to build a wall, you know, 2,200 miles from
you don't.
San Diego to Brownsville,
Right.
Texas. It's just in the highly
Urban
populated.
centers.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason that is because you can see them before they meld in.
Right. Then you send in the asylum judges, enough asylum judges to adjudicate on the border so they never come through. Once they're here, they can legally stay. If you adjudicate them on the other side. But let me tell you a solution that can solve this overnight without any investment at the border. And this is what I'll do as soon as I'm president. I'm going to make it so anybody in this country who has inadequate funds can get a passport card for free. You get a passport card from your local post office, 3,300 post offices in this country. The passport card is a government issued photo ID. The big problem is that there's huge numbers of poor in our cities who don't have driver's licenses. There's students who don't have driver's licenses. There's elderly who have expired driver's licenses who don't have them. They're mainly Democrats. So the Democratic Party does not want, they've been opposed to, you know, voter ID, to have, you know, check your ID when you're voting, and because it excludes Democrats, and that's contaminated the whole issue. But here's what you do. This is not a mandatory ID, but it's something available to everybody. And I'm going to make it so there's no barriers. Everybody can get one. If you don't have an ID right now, you're a second-class citizen. And so many, you would not believe the millions of people who don't.
How is this going to stop the flow? Because
let me tell you.
Forget being a second-class citizen. They're not citizens at all.
You give me two minutes.
Okay.
These are American citizens who don't have them. I'm saying American
absolutely. I agree.
Citizens don't have them. And if they don't, they can't open a bank account, which means they get their checks cashed at the check cashing place that takes 10% of their Social Security checks. They can't go to a hotel. They can't board an airplane. They can't visit their kids at school. So this solves that problem. They're all going to get one. Now, if you're an employer today in Detroit or New York and you got a construction project, you're required to check ID to make sure there's U.S. citizens.
Yes.
But the only ID, because widespread IDs are not available, the only ID that you ask for is Social Security card, which is no picture, easily forged, asked from hand to hand.
You're talking about E-Verify, aren't you?
Right. Well, no, I'm talking about just you can't get a job unless you got that passport.
That's an E-Verify, pretty much. Yeah, I agree.
But it's not it's I'm nervous about anything digital. This handheld. I don't like the government having any of our information.
Well, they would have it because
they're going to have a photo passport ID just like you have and I have.
Issued by the government, the data put in a computer.
They can't put anything else on there except your passport ID. Now, that will shut down the border overnight because it's illegal for that employer to hire somebody who doesn't have that card. He goes to jail. Nobody's going to employ him. The border will dry up. Not only that, Now the Democrats no longer object to people being having to show ID before they can vote. We have Al Sharpton is on board this. Andrew Young is on board. All the civil rights leadership, they want this. They went and met with Biden 3 weeks ago. He refused to do it. It's a solution for all these problems. It shuts down the border. And let me just end up saying one thing.
Okay, listen.
During the last 2 decades of his life, I worked very closely with Cesar Chavez, who was a very close ally of my dad. I worked on pesticide issues because Hispanic farm workers are disproportionately injured by pesticides. His 2 big issues during those years was pesticides and closing the border, because it was the illegal immigrants coming across the border that were ruining his leverage with the growers who, when he was trying to get a deal, good employment, good pay for his workers, for American workers.
Yeah.
And the same is true today. All the Democrats who think they're doing something humanitarian by opening the border, they don't understand what's going on, and they don't understand the history.
And culturally, what they're doing here, and financially, there's 2 things I'll say. One, right now, executive order, the humanitarian parole, which is illegal, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to remain in custody until a judge adjudicates your asylum claim.
Yeah.
We're just letting them go. Stop that. Number 2.
Well, they get 7 years.
Fuck.
Right.
Right.
So, and then they don't have to show up.
Did you see what Trudeau and Biden just secretly negotiated? The safe third country agreement? Okay, it's the same. Basically, if you're, let's say, for example, you're a Mexican refugee and you want asylum in Canada, but you come through a third country, the United States. When you go through the port of entry, they say, no, go back to the safe third country and apply there. Because there's a loophole, right? That's just customs, the port of entry. What if people walk through the forest or through the desert? Canada got 40,000 people last year, lost their mind. Trudeau and Biden came up with an addendum to the treaty where the whole border is an official entry point. We need the president to negotiate that.
Yeah, well, I'll do that. Right.
Are you going to write down? Okay. Last thing, you got to go. Who killed your uncle?
Well, my uncle clearly was killed by a conspiracy, and that was the verdict of the House Select Committee on Assassination. That Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone, but there were multiple people involved.
That was the United States Congress that found that.
Yeah, after a year and a half investigation that was 10 times as large as the Warren Commission investigation. Most of the people, including Senator Schweitzer, who had been on the Senate version of that committee, and most of the staff, almost all the staff, and I've talked to almost all of them, believe that the CIA did it. And in fact, there's been since then multiple confessions by people who were, who say they were involved in it, including David Morales and E. Howard Hunt, and essentially a confession by David Atlee Phillips, who was probably, one of the 2 masterminds with Bill Harvey. So, we know the people who were involved, and, we know almost certainly, we have a very good idea who the likely shooters were. And many people have confessed at this point, and there's now millions of documents. I mean, we know that Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA asset.
He was.
And if that were known at the time of the Warren Commission, there's no way they would have been able to say that, he acted alone, that he was a lone nut. He was a lone nut who was a CIA asset. Well, why was he a CIA? Why was the CIA working with him if he was so nutty?
And again, this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is what? When was the Warren Commission?
64.
Okay. So this is 15 years later. The United
79. And it was that House.
15 years later, they're like, wait a minute, it was a conspiracy of some sort. They stopped short of the CIA. You stopped short of saying the CIA, but the CIA was supposed to release all the documents.
Well, the CIA has also blocked the documents and blocked not just the documents, but every investigation of it for now 60 years. Oh,
You got to go. There she is. The muscle, New York muscle. These chicks are tough.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you. Your voice did really warm up there just because I paid
Yeah,
attention.
maybe you just got used to it, too.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
Well, I hope the American people get the opportunity to hear your voice and what you actually have to say.
Thank you very much.
I do.
See you next week. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, brother? Thanks for being here.
Good. Yeah, thanks.